Yeah, I can get them.
Say good evening. It's just us. I'd like to call this Board of Education study session to order. It is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, and it is 5:30 p.m.
Hay, here. King, here. McHugh, here. North.
Here.
I'd like to move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Hay,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
McHugh,
Yes.
North.
Yes. Superintendent updates.
I have a few things on here that way, probably more than I normally do. I can read through everything that way, you can read that way. But the energy audit update, we're gonna have Verity do those first couple steps, just to see where we're at, and then adjust from there accordingly. We're not tied to any specific equipment brands, we're not tied to do business with them later. We wanna go out and get another audit, we can do that. We can use this audit in other ways, just things like that. I really believe this is a good step for us to take to figure out where we're at, because I don't think anyone really knows where we're at, what they were from. Anyway, so they'll go through a lot of different things. I think it'll be very worthwhile for us. ECE update, a few of us met with Mitch Houston about this. Rachel, Aaron, and I did. It was a couple weeks ago. I don't know what day of the week it was, Thursday or Friday maybe. Just to look at cameras, internet access points, water, all those different things, and the metering of some different things, and then reviewing the lease and kind of going over that internally, but also share some of those things with Mitch. And we're going to have another meeting. Actually, we're having a meeting on Thursday. A few of us are with Mitch about that and a few other things, just to kind of just make sure we're all on the same page as we start moving forward with that. Mitch is actually going to be here at the April board meeting to give a foundation update, but also just to share some ECFS can we do. We started negotiations last Friday. Not a lot to share in that regard. We have another meeting coming up on the 14th, March 14th. Yeah, March 14th. So just so you kind of, Erica, do you have anything you want to share in that at all, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think, I assume that the board read, the mutual,
Joint communication.
joint communication that was sent out, yes. So we were able to come to a tentative agreement on the first item to strike through those sections of the CBA. So that was good that we were able to do that. And so we were able to get to 3 different topics, so making decent progress in that area. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we already know, anything financial, with financial implications isn't going to be discussed until we get closer to having information from the state about funding, so.
Yeah, thank you. We'll kind of keep everyone updated on that. Water, at our last business meeting, I think it was our last business meeting, I think it was a business meeting before that, we talked about water, future water here in this building. Aaron, Brandy, and I met with Mrs. English and her water students, I'll call them, from last year. Had a good conversation. They had some questions about things. We shared that Lookout Mountain has made some improvements in their system in the last year that we believe will have a positive impact here. We are meeting with the teachers in this building on next Tuesday at 7:30, I believe. And then we'll be sending some messaging out to parents as well. We're looking also at some carbon filtering and things like that too. So just so you kind of are aware of what's going on. But I think the students brought up some really, it was in all honesty, a very valuable conversation to have with the students and from their perspective, and then from their perspective about the safety of the water, but also on the marketing of that safety, and how some probably have a perception or a mindset that this is good, this is bad, whatever the case is, but just recognizing having those conversations. So
Were they receptive to the information that you?
yes, I thought they were very receptive. That
Do
was
we
it.
think there would be any value, or is it even needed to have Lookout Mountain describe to them specifically what they did? kind of like what they did with us because their brains have been wrapped around it so much more so than we have.
Yeah, and we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Actually, Lookout Mountain came and spoke with them last year, I believe.
Right, they did,
That way
yeah.
too, so having some potential follow-up in the future,
Sure.
maybe something. we
Okay,
could do.
great.
So, I'll be putting something in the nugget, not this week, but the following week as well.
Thank you.
So, seeing that.
I mean, I think that's huge for our district, right? That we can provide clean water to our students
Yeah.
is,
I think there's still the concern that some have, during the runoff time.
Mhm.
But we also believe some of the filtering that has taken place, some of the improvements at Lookout Mountain are going to have a positive
Sure.
effect on that too.
Sure.
So, and they have to sell us healthy water too. They can't just, and we have talked to it was amazing, we had approved, or we talked about going to open up water fountains on a Tuesday night, I don't know, some night we talked about it. The
Yeah.
next day we have a safety meeting and the Clear Creek Fire Department came up to us and talked about, hey, we're hearing that you guys want us to take some of your water and things like that. So just to flow it through. So it was interesting. We had that conversation that day. Actually worked out perfect. So we're working
there
on some
was no
details. with
phone
that.
call involved.
No,
Just so you know.
I don't know. All I know is they, it was like, because I think they mentioned it here and I kind of looked at each other and started laughing. Are you serious? So it's kind of funny. So, but I think that is a way of filtering
That's
that
great.
water out and, getting
Yeah.
that water flow.
They will be
So-
happy to help, yeah.
As far as the next one here is the PK playground at King Murphy needs some work. We've been told that by the PK inspectors, that there's some things, improvements we need to make. So we're looking at some grants to help fund that. This would not be for, this would not be for this summer, but the following summer. We're gonna communicate that to the inspectors too, but there's anywhere from some of the equipment being too close together for code right now, some of the ground area, a slide going way too close to a fence coming out, some wooden structures that are just decomposing, some planks that have some spikes sticking out or nails sticking out a little bit, which we can handle that, we can take care of that. We're also looking at moving it to the different side of the building as well, and just kind of looking at the costs and things like that. We haven't really got going on it yet, but that is something we're going to be working on, and Sunny Vincent has been helping out with that as well, along with the teachers over at King Murphy, and Scott's been involved talking about things. Aaron went over there, met with Sunny and the directors last week or the week before, so kind of know that. So that's our future thing there. Kristen, myself, Brandy, Scott, and Lorraine went to the college fair, college teaching fair at Dakota Ridge High School. For about 300 candidates, 300 plus teaching candidates there from all different areas. I sat in on some interviews with Brandy for the middle school, high school, for some of the openings we have. We also gathered up some names for some elementary teacher openings and things like that. So it was a worthwhile day that way on Saturday. The next one I have in here is just a few things too. Math teacher, I think I sent all the board members today. I think parents got something too today, I believe, that we now have an in-person math teacher that will be starting soon. You may recognize his name, Chris Gould, former principal here. He will be doing in-person math that way. So we have ceased the contract with the online teacher. Chris is willing to do it now, and that's excellent for us, excellent for our students. He's working on some things to assess where students are at before he just hops in and does some things. We still do have Dan Ross as a paraprofessional there as well. So I believe this is good. So it's a positive thing for our students, our school district as a whole, because it was hard to hire someone, or not that we didn't try. We couldn't hire someone in person that way. And that was just something that was mentioned at the last meeting. And also just want to point out a couple things here. The district has not looked to reduce its teaching staff in the past. Sometimes we've had openings because we can't find a teacher. And while we can't find a teacher, some other school districts also can't find a teacher for those areas. So I want to make sure that's kind of known too, from some comments that were made at the last meeting. Teacher retention, we've had in the 22-23 school year, we had 12 teachers leave, which was about 23%. Now some of them resigned, some retired, 5% left for family reasons out of that 23%, then 23, 24, with 11 teachers leave, which is about 20%. 5% of those retired, 5% left for family reasons. So there's some other reasons than just typical, maybe I want more money or things like that, whatever the case may be. There are multiple reasons why people leave. That way, and we
Can
live
we
in a,
put that on our website, please?
we can do something like that. Yes, we were just
Yes,
talking
please.
about that. Kristen and I and a couple people were just talking about, I'll probably have some slides developed for some of this information and some other information that goes along with salary comparisons.
Yeah. Right.
You know, with some districts around here. I'll have some of those on slides at next Thursday's meeting.
Okay.
That's the plan, and then we plan on sharing that information and website, whatever the case may be that way. Because we
Is
want to
there a
make
way
sure.
to add, and maybe, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but like and I don't know how you would do it, but the percentage of pay increase over the years too?
Yes, we can do that too. In fact, I think
I
we
mean, this
just
is
had a conversation that.
Yeah.
And this is, don't quote me on this number here, but since FY '22 to now, we've had about 31.65% increases in salary for teachers. The BA step one, just coming out of college with the BA degree, from 2021 to 24, 25. The increase there is about 17.7% increase in that salary that way too. So just so you're kind of aware of that. I do have some information put together too on, for bus drivers, food service workers, custodians, paraprofessionals, in comparison to some other areas around here, to just make sure we're getting accurate information. I think that's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
You know, I hear a lot about teacher pay, teacher retention, or not just teacher, but staff as a whole. And I think it's important to share that, that we are being very competitive, if not higher than other areas, and things like that too. So I'll have some of that on the Thursday slides, and also have a document for board members I'll be sharing later on, probably tomorrow, that would too some information. I think it's important to share the good things about our district. And I guess there's one thing I want to say, and I think I shared this with someone fairly recently. You know, there are always things that aren't perfect. I don't care where you're at, and things like that. But, you know, I think we have to share the positives that are happening. Positive things with our students and their learning, positive things happening in buildings, across the county, it's not just about schools, it's about our community as a whole too. And sharing some of those positives are very important to do. I think we all need to really look at that and share it. This is a good place to be. In fact, this is a great place to be. I think it's important that we all share that as well. So anyway, thanks for the input on that. And then just one thing I just wanted to share, and I sent this out, I think, to board members too, on, you know, procedures, and I'm just gonna read a small part of the policy here, but the board shall schedule time during some board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public. We have our public comment on that. Some public comment periods may relate to specific items on the agenda. The board shall set a time limit on the length of the public participation time and a time limit for individual speakers, which we do as well for public comment. We don't do it for the groups that come and speak at this time at least. And then also states that, you know, members of the public will not be recognized, you know, just during a normal conversation that the board is having. So I think that's important, because those things can turn, you know, into very contentious discussions sometimes. They're very, you know, people don't have time to maybe gather their thoughts before maybe they say something that they wish afterwards, I'm sure what to say, you know what I mean? Just trying to keep a calm manner that way. So those are my updates.
I just want to, I appreciate the policy inclusions here, but I also, you know, in my parliamentary world, the president of the board runs the meeting. And if she decides that she wants to allow for public comment when addressed, then she has that ability. And it does say here that they will not be recognized by the president or whatever, but we have elected a board president who is in charge of this meeting. And if she so decides that, you know, she wants to bang the gavel and say, no, that was out of place, then that's the thing. But then she could say, I know, I'm excited about the gavel.
Who's talking about this? You got a gavel. I said, we talked about the
Because
gavel.
my
I said,
hand was not necessarily
But
very
there-
effective.
There have been times when she has allowed for the question that was appropriate and it kind of seamless. Now, I wasn't here for this particular event, but I think that we have to give our board president the leeway to how she wants to run her meeting. And if she felt comfortable doing that, again, I would, then I would just say that that's her prerogative. She's our board president. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Any public comment?
No. Can I just take one quick step back? to the
Yes.
Previous thing we were talking about retention, so I looked it up real quick and we'd already moved on.
Yeah.
But just to confirm, so in 22-23, our turnover was 23%, and that equals the national turnover rate for teachers that same year. So
Yeah.
like trying to say that, you know, we have more turnover than other districts is not true. I mean, it was spot on with the national turnover rate that year for teachers, so just wanted to.
Well, and I know last year when we were getting some of that information, I was devastated to hear words like 35% of the teachers left last year. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell's going on around here? Do I want to be on it? You know, but when you dig in a little more, I mean, you break it down, not everybody leaves because of one particular reason. Like they just don't like the district. There's very little of that actually, from what I can see.
family reasons, significant other reasons, retirement reasons. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why people choose to leave their job, not just in school, but in general. You know, just, well, I
Right.
got to have another opportunity I want to pursue. And that, we live in a society where that's pretty possible right now too.
Say legislative updates. How are we coming? with
How we
the
doing,
letter
Tom?
For the constituents. Did that,
It was in the nugget, I'm gonna put in
Okay.
the nugget again, and then we're gonna send it on another email too.
okay.
The one thing I wanted to share,
Because we had talked about something that.
yeah, and I don't have
other
a,
list.
I don't have a huge list that includes everyone in the county, but we
Okay.
do have a list that goes out to some other people as well, so.
Because yeah, if we could get it to like Beth Luther and it goes through her list, because I know the DAC had a much better community response by using that
Yeah,
broader list.
We'll send out
Yeah,
later.
sure.
And I think it's imperative for the whole community to know that there are some action items that they can take. So, yeah, thank you.
So, I did want to share something that I got from CASE today, Colorado Association of School Executives. I'm just gonna highlight a few areas here and read a little bit. State funding outlook worsens. It's always what we need to hear. Conversations about cuts continue. Funding and a significant budget shortfall for next year have dominated conversations at the Capitol beginning prior to the start of the session. Within the last couple of weeks, the financial outlook has gotten worse, and the latest projections estimate that lawmakers will need to make up to $1.2 billion in cuts. The last economic forecast in December indicated a $672 million shortfall. Okay, so that's I didn't do the math on that, but that's quite a bit. Okay, so what does this mean for public education funding? CASE's message to lawmakers continues to be that any cut to K through 12 is unacceptable, including the governor's proposal to eliminate averaging, which would amount to roughly $150 million in reduced funding to 2/3 of Colorado districts. Some things being discussed, but just recognizing that deficit shortfall
Right.
increased. I'm not sure where that's gonna go. So that's an update I had on that part. Yeah.
Linda McMahon announced today that she's a proponent of getting rid of her job as the head of the Department of Education, and she intends to disband it.
I got a text from that, from someone, sent me a text from a friend of mine. So and I think when you look at that, I think that there's actually a part to talk about, like if there's an agenda item, we'll maybe hold off a little bit of that, but yes.
Because yeah, there was the discussion about CASB and grants. Do you want to touch on that?
I have that in the,
Okay.
in the Department of Education.
Okay.
There we go,
Thank you.
yes, thank you. So then we will move on to monthly expenses Q&A. I know Kathleen couldn't join us, but if there are any questions, we're going to forward those to her and she's going to respond to us. Is that Should be email.
I do have questions. So I can see it on my computer screen. And I know we've discussed this before, but I'm super curious to know where we're at on our copier paper expenses compared to last year, knowing that we changed our contract and how is that looking for us and are we seeing a cost savings? I know at one point, and it was maybe a year or two ago, we used to get these reports with, this is where you were last year at this time, that number.
This is part of the quarterly, but I don't know if it was that detailed for usage of paper and.
Well, no, I mean, for each line item, it had, this is where you were last year. So that would be super helpful when we're looking at these things, just to know where we're making headway and where we're maybe not making headway. I have no idea what I meant by that.
That all the time, Carrie Ann. Can't read my handwriting or it doesn't make sense to me.
Still on the copiers though, this is all under Fund 10, it seemed to indicate that transportation has 2 copier machines, and I was curious about that. There were 2 line item expenses for their leasing of 2 different machines.
Go ahead. Oh, Kristen, yes, she may have an answer to that.
think, Brooke and Erin each have like a small tabletop printer, not like the big copier.
Like a desktop printer.
Desktop, yeah.
Okay, so $147 a month for each of them is what?
Aaron raises his
Aaron
hand.
raised his hand.
Go ahead, Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We only have one printer copier in TMF that Brooke and I share.
Okay. So there's 2 on the leasing line items there. I don't know, maybe we didn't pay 1 month and it looks like a duplicate.
It could have something to do with, the current company that we're using bought out the other contract, so I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a big amount, obviously. I was just curious, 2 printers and the bus one. And Erin, you're still there, right? So when we talk about boilers at King Murphy and things seem to be still cooking along there, I would like to know where we're at on the reserve study or what the reserve study said about that particular scenario when they were looking at that. And are we at our end of life expectancy for that system? And if we are, then we're throwing good money after bad because there could be more efficient systems that we should maybe be putting in instead of cobbling this one together. And I'm just wondering if we aren't at that point.
I agree, and it's something I've been looking into, Carrie Ann. Right now, we do have to replace a boiler because it has failed. But I've brought in or talked to now 2 engineers on what to do in the future as funding or as other things progress over there. And really going to more of a hybrid system, a more efficient system as to running for instance, we'll now have 2 brand new boilers over there because we replaced one in June and we'll be replacing another one now here in June. And we have 5 total over there. So keeping either 2 or 3 conventional boilers and then a more high efficiency boiler as a backup to the others before replacing those. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And I think that when you look at boilers, you also have to look at the circulation pumps. They usually fall pretty much in line with those repairs.
Correct. Those pumps were replaced not too long ago. I believe it was 2018. So there was a couple pumps that were replaced and added, and then VFDs as well in that system.
So, and I know we talked about it back when we had the reserve study done, that we thought that maybe it would be a good idea for us to look at having all of our HVAC systems in each building on a maintenance program. Where a guy comes in and he changes the filters all the same, and then he checks off where he was at last time, or he taps off the glycol, or he measures the things with the circulation pump and all of that. Is this still something that we should be considering, or do you not see that as being a value?
I definitely think that it's something that we could consider, and it's something that's been in the back of my mind to look into and get us an idea of what that would look like. I just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's almost like you've got to build a spreadsheet of all of your components within all of the buildings and then be able to give it to somebody and say, we need a maintenance schedule based on this.
Definitely. And I had very little to work off of taking over, and I have started those spreadsheets for filter replacement and just annual PMs for our equipment. So I'm working through that, but I think that there could be a benefit to bringing in a company like that. I'm just not sure on what that would cost us at this point.
I guarantee you it'll cost you a lot less than the breakdowns that you'll eventually get anyway.
I would concur.
Right?
But weighing that for
Please,
us doing it or the company doing it. So
Right,
so it's just all things to consider and look at. And I will get to that point.
Yeah.
Not there yet.
Well, thank you for the discussion.
Yep.
So I'm on page 8 of Fund 10, CenturyLink. It says something about a private business line. Is that your secret line? Is that the bad
My
line?
secret line. It says CenturyLink.
It's CenturyLink and it has a private business line.
If I could add to that one, CenturyLink, it was $14,000 and there was like a notation that said bills were being ... and it kind of cut off.
Oh, right.
I'm wondering, like, is this, that's high compared to previous months, and so I'm just wondering.
Because it was almost $10,000 on that one.
Yeah, total to
9,800.
CenturyLink was 14, but that, yeah, it was $9,886.
I can check on that. I can't tell you right off.
So it looks like there was a notation as to maybe why it was that much,
Why
but
it was, I can't
But we couldn't quite read it all.
Yeah.
And then there is another line item under CenturyLink for idle building. Is that OC?
I assume that is.
Marcy asked that
OC,
question
they
last.
have to have a,
Security
have
for
to
the
have some
fire.
operations in their fire.
Yeah,
yes.
sure, that makes sense. Yeah. So then on page 10, we have Core Electric. And I'm not sure, is that bill a quarterly bill or is that a monthly bill? So we're paying $25,000 a month for this building and the 2 wells, which I'm assuming all electric. But looking at the well breakdown, I'm almost thinking that might be a quarterly bill. If not, we have issues.
I can check on that. I can't.
I don't think it, well, maybe that amount is quarterly, but I think I looked back and we core is monthly,
Is it?
but maybe not this amount.
Right, okay, because I didn't get a chance to look back at those. So then, I mean, because before I was looking at the Excel Energy expenses, and that was coming to about $18,000, and it was only $6,000 for this building, and I'm like, well, okay, we can look at that, but then, somehow or another, I missed all of the Core Electric, but it's
can
looking
check
like $30,000 a month for this building alone.
I can check on that, get back.
So that, that just bolsters your effort for us to do an energy audit.
Agree.
And just because we do this, $14,000 was spent on Everdriven again this month. I did ask for a copy of the legal bills this month and they're all legit. We just had some high activity. And that's all I have.
Any other?
The copy stuff, I was curious about that too. It was pretty high this month. It was 9,691 and last month it was 4,000. So I was just wondering, is this a monthly something that we pay or why was it double?
You said for the copies.
Yeah, and so we have all copy, which is like our lease for the equipment, I believe, but we also pay like 1,000 something to Xerox. $1,900 to Xerox monthly, and I was just wondering how those work together.
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that right now.
Why not, Tom?
No.
So just real quick, last month we paid almost 13,000 to Core. So a lot less, but still.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Can't tell you. We'll
And the
check it out.
more we save on that particular bill, the more that we have for instructional for the students.
And I thought the building was Excel, so I'm wondering if core is just the treatment plant and the wells.
That would be a pretty substantial.
That seemed like a lot.
That's a lot.
Well, I know that it's been a minute, but it was questions like one of the first years I was on the board.
Okay,
So
so finding out that
Yeah.
information would, I think, help us.
that system was built to run hundreds of units and it does not. It's just.
So maybe that's where we need our energy on it.
Exactly, I
Yeah.
think that's a very good point, that we need to get that energy out, figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Department of Education update.
Just I just had a couple things here. There's been a lot of discussion, federal, state level in the last couple of months, that way, whatever, of what's going on with Department of Ed and funding and things like that. There was something put out about one of the executive orders. The federal government, CDE, came out and stated some things. That was on Tuesday, February 25th. I'm just going to read this. On Friday, February 21st, a federal judge granted a preliminary injunction that prohibits the implementation of certain portions of the executive orders related to DEI. Court order says that the federal government cannot terminate grants or contracts on the grounds that they are equity related. So any grants we have that have anything to do with equity or anything, that those funds are still coming. Additionally, the federal government cannot ask a grant or contract recipient to certify that it does not operate any programs promoting DEI. All I know is right now our grant funds, no matter what they are still coming in. Could that change? It could. I don't foresee it happening right now for the grants we have, but I cannot guarantee anything either. I know when we look at the BEST grant, one of the things that they're talking about doing at the state level to help with the budget was to cap the BEST grant. I don't know if that will happen or not. Hope it doesn't, obviously. And then Cassie said something out about K-12 grants under scrutiny too here, and the links aren't live if you have it electronically that way, but just recognizing that there are changes likely going to be occurring. Right now, things are going okay, but I don't know what the future holds. And if someone does tell you they know what the future holds, I don't know if I believe them, okay? So that's what I have. I think the Department of Ed, I think it was you, Carrie Ann, brought up the potential elimination of the Department of Education at the federal level. There's some things that have to happen in order for that to occur.
Do you remember how we went through that exercise with Trailblazers and we did the whole thing, like we were pretending like the Department of Education didn't exist? And we all became little states watching it. It's freaking scary.
No. There's still gonna have to be funding for some programs based, or it doesn't have to be. I would assume there would still be some programming for IDEA type things, because we have to perform some, we have to provide services. I say that, then I think, I guess they don't have to either, but I would think that changes, yes, there will be changes occurring. I would almost guarantee that. What those are and the impact on us is just, it's so hard to talk about because you just don't really know what that could mean. I've talked to different people, it's like, no one really knows, so. Erica, go ahead.
So on this newsletter, they talk about the school health professionals grant. That's the one that we have, the 3-year grant, right?
Yes,
We're
yes.
on year 2.
Mhm. Yes. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone else is anything that way.
Shake your ground out there.
All right, on to policy. We've got a stack of Title IX regulation changes.
And the thing that I would say about these are all from CASB, and they're related to requirements. Yeah, that's what I would say, they're related to requirements and their wording. There were, I don't know if you got the feedback sheets too, that some people had questions about them. I think those were answered well, as good questions people had, or good comments people had of why. But these are federal the state, I guess, whatever you want to say. But if we're really not going to do some of these, then I need to contact our attorney about it too. So that was my words of wisdom in the past. Always is like, if you're not gonna do these, just be thinking about the implications of that.
I think out of all of these, the only one that's one that we don't currently have on our books is the ACR one. Is that right? Do I have that right? Three. It didn't sound right, and then that's the one that I just can't find.
Let's see what I got. It might be this.
Yes, yeah, there it is, right there. It just
It just
looks different than the rest
doesn't
of them. There we
It's
go.
like
Oh, that's
here,
what
instead
it
of it to the
is.
left, it's to the
Gotcha,
right.
gotcha. Okay, so I might recommend for our own sanity that we just set that one aside for a second and then go ahead and chew up the other one, since this is a brand new one that we should probably focus on. It's pretty hefty. I mean, that one, sorry.
Yeah. Because really,
All the rest of them are pretty typo-ish, need to add this, add that, whereas.
right.
I mean, from what I have read anyway.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody else noticed anything different, but that new one is,
So I know there was one comment about the marital status
Yeah.
being crossed off, but I actually saw it in two policies. It was also in JII, where marital status was crossed off, so I wasn't sure if that might have been a mistake as well. Well, and it was in JICDE, because she commented on GCE. So maybe it's three.
right, yeah.
But otherwise, I didn't have any other questions. It was just whether that was kind of at the bottom of the stack. The bullying prevention, marital status was crossed off, and then family status composition. And then in JII, student concerns, complaints, and grievances, marital status was crossed off there too. So I just wondered if that was,
Could check it out.
yeah.
It was removed on several,
Oh, okay,
but I will double check.
all right.
I'm gonna check yours too.
Lori, on the resolution for emergency approval, the paragraph that starts now therefore be it resolved, there's a typo. It says 2 temporary approved policies instead of 2 temporarily approved policies.
Yeah.
And then, we have some current policies that reference, well, I'll wait till we get to ACR 3, I'll wait with that.
So Asher, did you get to sit with any of these?
No, I'm
No,
sorry.
okay. So that is, so there are a bunch, so it's, but we're glad to have you with us today.
And do we feel like we could do the first vote at our business meeting with those?
So, yeah, I guess that,
I mean, we're not hearing a lot of questions or discussion.
Ready to move forward with those for the business meeting for the first reapproval.
and would we want to do the resolution less the brand new policy?
I think so, if that's okay with
If
everybody.
everyone feels comfortable with that.
Yeah. Okay,
Right, do you want to spend some time in ACR 3?
no, we're putting that one off for our
Okay,
next up.
we'll save that for April.
Right.
Okay. Excellent.
And just so you know, on ACR 3,
Yeah,
current policies of the Clifton School District, that are referenced in that are, there's 5 of them.
okay,
And we'll put this in the next notes, ACE 1, ACR 1.
Yeah,
Together here.
they're on,
Okay,
they're in this
right.
stack that we're
Okay.
approving, so,
just so you
Yeah.
are aware that
Okay,
some
so
of
they
those
circle
are,
back.
some of those are already, I'll say,
Okay.
in effect that
Yeah.
way, so.
sure.
So it kind of compiles them maybe in one document.
Exactly.
So.
Cool beans.
So this- April. Thank you. We are to the point where we select a board member to sit in on April agenda planning.
I thought we did
So
that
is
at the business meeting.
Well, I think because it's happening so fast and we go into spring
Yeah, I
break,
think that
we
makes
wanted to
sense,
take care of
too.
it.
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
It is.
I can do it.
Whatever turn it wants to be. Pick me.
I was excited.
All right, any future agenda items?
You know, right now, I kind of feel like our superintendent is doing a really great job and he has his hands really full. So just keep working on the things that you're working on and thank you very much.
I think we have, and for those who've been involved with that, we have an agenda prep that we have, so some of those things are added on, that we've talked about, maybe some of those April or May or whatever that may be, so.
Should we have a student agenda prepper? At some point. Maybe if it works out, you guys are in the same world, you could join in as well, work something about that.
All right, then. I would
Move
look-
to adjourn.
Second. Kate?
Yes.
King?
Yes,
McHugh?
Yes,
yes. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thanks to all of you. Drive safe, well, I'm gonna see what the roads are like, I'm not gonna,
Nobody knows.
not gonna say that, 'cause if
Right?
you're going that way, I have no